Welcome, Spartans, to Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo. I'm your host, Tom, and with me today is Krysta.
Snape kills Dumbledore.
Ah, I knew it.
And Matt.
Dumbledore wasn't that great.
Oh my god.
That's what, Fantastic Beasts is going on about.
Unfortunately, guys, this week we are here to launch our latest Evolved series, not a Harry Potter series, which will be known as Infinite Impressions. And our first episode is Initial Impressions with Krysta, Matt, and myself. Now, before we get started, we do need to jump into some housekeeping. So, if you're new to the show, welcome. Podcast Evolved is host to a variety of shows. What you're listening to right now is our main show, where we host our original series, like Infinite Impressions, and also listen to other shows like The Road to Infinite and Character Dossiers. I struggled with reading the script there for a second. Podcast Evolved also hosts Mission Debrief, Builds with Blocks, Halo Book Club, and Halo Headlines. And we also have a partnership with HCS Pro Talk with Josh and Will, where they discuss the latest information within the competitive Halo scene with an emphasis on the community every week. You can learn more about each of our shows on our website, halopodcastevolve.com. And if you're already a fan of the show, we ask you to rate us and leave us a review. We greatly appreciate all the feedback we receive from our listeners to improve the quality of our shows. And we would also like to take a moment to thank all of our patrons for their continued support. So thank you for keeping the lights on, guys.
Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you so much to everyone who supports us. Our patrons receive a variety of exclusive rewards, such as early episodes, unique swag, and access to our own soundtrack album featuring 18 songs. Head over to patreon.com/HaloPodcastEvolve to learn more. And finally, we encourage our listeners to support Audible, where they can enjoy the growing collection of Halo novels all in one place, along with thousands of other novels, guided wellness programs, and more. Use the URL audibletrial.com/podcastevolved to learn more and start your free trial today. And with that, we are out of all the social bits and we are going to jump into our initial impressions on Infinite. So we are going to talk up to the end of the 4th mission, which is the tower. And we're going to talk a little bit about the open world and some of the things that we've been discovering within that open world. So Matt, I'm going to throw it to you first. Have you been having fun with Halo Infinite's campaign?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think I have ever had this much fun with a campaign. I think there's just something about the open world, all the little gadgets and gizmos that they give you that just make the whole experience just unbelievably brilliant. And I can't say enough how much I love it.
Awesome, that's good to hear. Krysta, what about you? Have you been having fun?
It's... of course, yes. It's almost like it's the game I never knew I wanted.
Yeah.
But I wanted it so bad. The open world almost feels kind of like a Skyrim kind of vibe, where you just kind of want to wander around, and then the ambiance music starts going up with the Oz, and it's like, oh shit, it's so good. I'm having more fun just wandering around than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's definitely something that's never been present in a Halo game beforehand to this sort of extent. So it's really cool having this wide open Halo ring that you can really go and explore. I think we should dive more into our thoughts in a second. But before we do that, I think for context for the listeners, it would maybe be nice to just pretext this with where we're up to in the game. So Matt, do you want to go first and just let us know where you're up to so far?
Yeah, so I have finished the main story campaign, and actually when I played, I kind of prefaced that over all the side stuff. So now I'm just going back and just grabbing and doing all the little fun, capture bases and eliminations that they have there for you. So I think I'm at 46% of the game done. So I'm
Cool.
still got a lot to go. But I'm kind of right there.
Yeah. And then Krista, what about you? Where are you up to?
I finished the tower mission and I've just been wandering around. I'm at like 17%. I have a horrible thing when it comes to open world games where I physically cannot play the next story mission without doing all the other extra stuff.
Yeah.
So that is what I've been doing. I just can't. I'm like, ooh, look at that. I should go get that. Or like, oh, there's a cosmetics box not too far away. I'll just go get that.
Well,
And then I find like an entire base and I'm like, well, I'm here already. I guess I have to destroy this entire base.
So I think your playing style will be more rewarding for you when you get to the end, because you'll feel as though, you know what I mean, like I rushed to the end because like I didn't want to be spoiled and I wanted to know what was going on. But going back, I'm not going to say it's not as crazy fun, but like building up to it, I think it'll reward you more in the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So please don't judge me, guys. But I am about 17 hours into the game, and I think I'm on 86% complete.
Whoa.
So
amazing.
I've done a lot of the side missions, and the way it works is my brain is very methodical. So I'll unlock a new area, and I'll look at, say, like a fire base, or an FOB even, and just be like, oh, there's only X number of those, to avoid spoiling it for you, Krista. I'll go and do all of those quickly. And then once I do that, I'll look at the clock and be like, oh, I've got 20 minutes left. I can squeeze all of these things in as well. And then it just gets very addictive very quickly.
Right. Because they're very bite-sized, so you can kind of think like, oh, I could do that really quick.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. And obviously we'll talk about exploration a little bit more later on in the episode, but I think the way they've done open world in this game is very different to any other game. So it feels kind of more, I guess I want to use the word precise with the additions to it, where they just haven't thrown a load of icons onto the map and expected you to go and do everything. It kind of feels a lot more methodical, and there's sort of purpose behind the things that you're doing, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah.
I also feel like, when it comes to some game companies and their open world is more like, this is the biggest open world ever. Look at how huge it is. But 343 is like, we're going to give you, it's not going to be the biggest open world ever, but it's going to be filled with stuff for you to do. It's going to be a condensed open world, but it's going to be much more satisfying. And then there's a lot less like dead periods. Like you go through some open world games and you might not see something interesting for like 10-15 minutes as you're wandering around, where I feel like in this, every time I turn around I see I'm like, ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a lot more focused.
Yeah.
So obviously we're talking about one of the biggest additions to this that is in many ways really not Halo, but I guess the biggest question is, despite all these new additions, does it still feel like Halo to you? And Krista, I'll bring that to you first. Does this feel like a Halo game?
It does. It does in like the best way possible. It's because Halo games have had elements of exploration and discovery, but just not the open world element to back it up. And I feel like it's just, like I said, something I didn't know I wanted, but just makes so much sense in the Halo universe. Yeah. Like, it makes it, like, discovering stuff on your own instead of, like, going through the story or going through, like, a corridor, the kind of the corridor crawler that Halo used to be. It just, it makes so much more sense to just the narrative of Halo. Because it's a narrative about mystery and discovery, and when you have an open world that you can kind of just wander around in, it really highlights that kind of aspect of the game.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Matt, do you agree with that? Do you feel like it feels a lot like Halo still?
Actually, I would say that it feels like a combination of Halos, where I feel like if you feel like Halo Wars and like all the other Halos like rammed together, the aspect of like being able to see beyond the map and to use a map and then to kind of like say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to attack this, and then I'm going to go and attack this, but your boots on the ground, it kind of feels like Halo Wars and all the other Halos just kind of melded together in like the most perfect way possible. So I think this is Halo the way it should always have been. And I think it is like, it's the perfect culmination of what Halo has worked to, and it's what I want to see from Halo going forward. This amazing kind of snapshot of a battlefield.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. I think it's interesting because the game, and we'll talk about parallels in a second and I'll get your thoughts on it, but I feel like this really does, going back to kind of what you've both been echoing, it feels like what Halo always should have been. And I think what Halo really does well is it takes this sort of science fiction world and immerses you in it with really kind of sort of core themes that still feel relevant to modern audiences. So it's not like some futuristic dystopian story. It's very much things that are relevant to you in a futuristic universe. And I think this game kind of, from a narrative standpoint, it does what Halo's always done really well, which is keep those themes very grounded, very relevant, and very engaging. But then from a wider standpoint, I think having that open world kind of takes away all the boundaries you felt there in the past. So it's something that we'll come on to, because I think Halo has very much, kind of like you were saying earlier, Krysta, always been more of a corridor shooter. And now it feels like it's taking that step towards actually letting you be a part of that world and really explore it and see it, which sort of feels like what they've really wanted this game to be since 2001. And it feels like they've really sort of finally, I suppose in many ways, made good on that original E3 demo, because this feels like the closest thing to what I think the original vision for this franchise was. So around that, I guess, Matt, I'll keep this with you for now. How do you feel it's different or alike to previous games that we've had? Is there anything that's drastically different? Obviously, the open world is one thing, but equally, is there anything that you think's really similar?
So anything that's similar? I still feel like the enemies are the enemies, like... Yeah. I still feel like when I shoot a brute in the head, the way his helmet caps off just like perfectly emulates Halo 3. So I feel like on a vibe feel, I don't feel like the enemies have changed, and I appreciate that. Like I want them to still feel like the enemies I know. Like a brute moves like a brute, a grunt moves like a grunt. And so it's nice to have that. The patterns that how we've fought these guys for ages. It's nice that, the tactics of how we fight and how we change with each enemy is exactly the same. I think it's actually more enhanced, especially now because we have, all the increased movements and we have the grapple shot. And I think that kind of allows it to all kind of stay the same, but in like a newer, more vibrant way, whereas it feels more alive.
Yeah. And Krysta, what would you say? Is there anything that's drastically different from previous games, or is there anything it pulls from past games that you think really suits being in Infinite?
Kind of pulling from what Matt said about the combat, I feel like there are so many changes to this game, with the open world and stuff like that. It's really nice that the combat still feels like all of the other previous Halo games. There's so many differences between the Halo games, but the combat has stayed just so super familiar and relevant that, you still feel like Halo. It still feels like home.
Yeah.
You can still go into an encounter like you would have in like Halo 3 or, Halo 5 or whatever. But the surrounding set pieces around it are very different, but at the same time it still feels like Halo. Mm-hmm. I think some of the missions, obviously I'm not very far in the game, but some of the opening missions were very Halo. I thought the very first mission and the second mission were just very Halo, where it was like the corridor, you're trying to get to something, there's some cutscenes along the way. it's felt very nice to have that kind of lead up to the open world to just kind of get you secure, get you familiar, like these are kind of some of the changes, and then it just spits you out into the open world. And but it's very guided, like it just doesn't put you in the open world, like you kind of are guided to the next kind of set of objectives, and I think it really explains how everything works really well. So I kind of like that kind of lead in that this game has had.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you say that, because the open world, although it is an open world, it almost retains some linearity to it. And I think that keeps that kind of traditional feel that you're talking about as well. There were two things that I was going to mention on this front, and they're kind of both things, sort of one more from the original trilogy and then one from the more modern 343 games that I think it does really well. So from the 343 games, I like that obviously in this story we're still seeing a lot more of Chief actually talking and communicating what's going on, and obviously that's present in the first couple of missions. You see a lot more of that, those sort of exchanges with the weapon throughout, which I think is really cool because it gives you a lot more.
And there's emotion.
There's
a lot more emotion. Like, I thought Halo 4 was emotional, but just in these 4 couple cutscenes, there's just so much. And Master Chief's so quiet and stuff like that, but you can still feel like all this emotion emanating off of what he's seeing, what he's feeling, you know, what he's encountering, and I appreciate that. Sorry, back to you.
No, I agree with that fully, and I think that actually it's really interesting because beforehand I can remember I think it was 343 or one of the reviewers, I think it might be in the IGN review, saying that Chief feels like he's been worn down by all of the events that he's gone through. And I feel like this game really sort of shows you that and lets you actually see how things are weighing on Chief in a way that perhaps we haven't explored in the past, but it makes it a lot easier to connect with his character, and this kind of sense of actually being a hero isn't as easy as it's always painted out to be, and there are struggles that people like Chief are going to face as well. So yeah, I think on that front, the emotions are really, really well handled, especially, like we say, in sort of Mission 2 when you first meet the weapon as well. And then the other thing I was going to mention is the prevalence of Marine combat again. It feels so good having Marines back and actually having, like, that banter with them, and being able to sort of like choose how you're going into situations with them as well. Again, I don't want to talk too much about latter game, because obviously at this point early on you're sort of still just getting your hands around where UNSC forces are on Zeta, what's going on, but it's just cool seeing them being something that plays a role in the game again, because obviously in Halo 5 the only Marines we got were either in cutscenes or dead bodies, so it's nice actually having living Marines again.
I also would add that I think Echo 216 adds a lot of emotion within just his viewpoint on what he's looking at. I think just in those first couple of missions you really kind of get a swell of emotions from each character. I think the weapon brings like a happy, perky kind of vibe to it. Chief is Chief, but like I think the pilot brings like this human element to it that really, I don't know, I feel like it kind of grounds the whole story because you're seeing it through his eyes. And I think that really kind of makes it feel even more emotional because you're looking at this person who's like, yeah, we lost. And Chief's like, I'm going to get it done. But, this guy doesn't have that same kind of, drive. I think that's kind of neat.
It creates an interesting juxtaposition for sure, because Chief's always been this like hard ass character who can take on everything, and then actually you begin to see him perhaps taking on the emotions of other characters a little bit as well throughout, which I think is quite cool. I'm gonna just put the next question on the table and let you guys answer. I'm not gonna direct it to either of you, and that is, was the year delay worth it?
Yes.
I would say absolutely, yes.
I don't know where they were at in development at that year mark when they decided to delay it, but wherever they are and whatever time they needed, I think it has paid off so much. It's just, the wait was worth it.
Yeah.
The game is amazing. The game is so much fun. I am happy they got to take as much time as they needed to perfect the game as much as they possibly could before launch.
Yeah.
Because if the game was broken or something was weird,
Cyberpunk.
I don't I don't think we would be having as positive of conversations around this game.
Right, exactly. So, the conversation isn't about what's like broken. It's about the game in itself, the story, the mechanics. It has nothing to do with like, oh, the graphics look bad, blah blah blah, blah. Like the graphics look beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Like you know, Krysta was talking about earlier that you just want to walk around. You do. It's like going on a hike. You just like sightseeing, and you're like, that rock looks amazing.
There is honestly, genuinely, I got a couple of screenshots that I won't share with you guys now because they're from a little bit later on in the game. But I sat and looked at them afterwards, and I was like, "This looks like a painting. What?" It looks so good in contrast to, I think, where it was in that E3 demo, and I think it says a lot that 343 actually doubled down on that feedback, and you can tell that they worked really hard to action that. Because I mean, if you look at other franchises, for example, sorry to throw you under the bus here, Battlefield, but I was watching a lot of reviews around Battlefield 2042 earlier, and you could see that there was a lot of feedback that the developers had got that's been persistent feedback throughout that development cycle, and they just never acted on it. So I think it's really refreshing to see 343 actually being willing to take that feedback on board and act on what fans are giving to them. I think it makes it gets to the point where you get a game that is what the audience want, and that really feels like what Halo Infinite is, because they've actually listened to that and taken it on board, which I think is good.
Also, I feel like 343 needed a win. You know, the transition between Bungie to 343 has been rocky at best.
Yeah.
And it's taken them a while to find their stride. You know, Halo 4 was good, but the multiplayer was Halo 5, the campaign was weird, and then, Master Chief Collection was Master Chief Collection, and I feel like they finally delivered a Halo game that is just so well-rounded, and it's obviously no game's going to be perfect, but it's as perfect as it really can get, and I really appreciate that, and I'm happy 343 has gotten just a resounding win with this game, because I think a lot of people were feeling almost disheartened a little bit with 343. I mean, obviously we love Halo, stuff like that, but I feel like some of the community was starting to lose hope, and I'm so glad that 343 delivered.
There's a pun I could make here, but I'm not going to make it. I don't have the energy for puns this evening. Well, I think that's a really good point, actually, that this does feel like a big win for them. And I think it sets them up really nicely for sort of the next 10 years and really pursuing an ongoing story now. Because I know, Matt, something that we talk about a lot in our sphere is kind of collecting and the appeal of the Halo brand. And I feel like the brand as a whole over the past few years has maybe been a little bit more minimal. There's not been as much outside engagement in it now. But now I really feel like this game has pulled a lot of people back in, to the point where one of my friends who isn't even a gamer messaged me to say they bought an Xbox to play this game. So I really feel like this is hopefully going to be a renaissance for the Halo brand and a real opportunity to build it outwards with things like the television show now as well.
Yeah, it really does feel like Halo has taken center stage. Once again. As it should be.
Exactly. It's exactly as it should be. So we're going to jump more into specifics now, and I'd like to talk a little bit about some of our favourite encounters. So Matt, this is where I may need to very quickly censor you.
Should I take off my headset?
So obviously we can talk about the first 4 missions, and then after that, if you've done any HVTs at this point, I think, Krysta, you're probably best to lead with HVTs or anything like that, just so we're all on the same page. But yeah, so Matt, I guess really from the first 4 missions, so you've got the ship Gebreken, or whatever it is, mission, the mission where you go to the weapon, Outpost Tremonius, and then the tower, were there any encounters from those 4 missions or any moments in them which really stood out to you? And I know they've all blended together, but please just try.
I will say that is kind of a drawback of that it's really hard to define where a mission ends and where it begins. But I'm jumping right to the beginning. The first opening cutscene, we see the paperweight once again take a beating.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was what a way to open the game.
Well, infinity is infinity, but man, I did not expect to see Chief square off against Atriox in the first 30 seconds of the game.
I know.
I'm like,
I was like, what the?
I'm like, they fudging went there, and just to see Chief get his ass beat so bad,
just
like
around.
He's just getting swung like a rag doll, and then Atriox grabs him by the throat. Oh, it's just like I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, and I was so engaged in those moments. And so I think that momentum of that carried through because I really love. I think out of the first 4 missions that we talk about, I think my favorite is the beginning mission. I think it feels so excellently Halo. Again, I think all good Halos begin in space. And so having that like Forward Unto Dawn, Pillar of Autumn mission where you're on a spaceship. This time it's on an enemy spaceship. But
wait, Halo Reach doesn't begin in space.
Well, there are exceptions to the rule, but Halo 5 does not begin in space. But I think having like just that kind of thing where you as the player are like, okay, I just got chucked out into space by Atriox, and you want revenge, and I just can't, and then having all the other, and what happens with Atriox, and just like you're trying to piece it all together, and for me, that opening cutscene carried me on such a high that I was just amped. So lots of other amazing little things along the way, but like nothing stands out to me as much as Atriox and Chief going at it. And I think like that part where Chief's like grabbing the chip as like he's like, that's like all he can think about is like, oh, I gotta get it. And like Atriox is just coming at him and he just stops to pick up the chip. I'm like, So for me, that was, and it's funny though, because like, I think you and I, Tom, were having a conversation with Colin, and it was before we even like played the campaign or anything like that. We were on multiplayer, and we were talking about what happens if Chief ever encountered Atriox. And, Colin's like, "Oh, Chief's done," and you and I were like, "Nah." And then like, Chief, Colin's like, "He's toast," and I'm like,
"Chief is well and truly toast."
Yeah, and so then I'm like, just like seeing him beat, and I'm like, "Wow." Now, congrats, Colin. You were right as usual, but, so I thought that part it was amazing to me. And I think what a way to start out the game.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And that cutscene is something I've rewatched about 5 times at this point.
Yeah, it's on the Evolve channel.
So well done.
YouTube channel. If you guys just want to see the first kind of couple minutes again and again.
Yeah. Krysta, what about you? What are some of the moments that have stood out most to you in the first few missions?
Well, obviously the opening cutscene, but we kind of already did that. Definitely the mission where you're retrieving the weapon and you're starting to hear kind of Cortana talking and stuff like that, and the weapon actually explains it as just data that is just kind of dissipating.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense to what was going on in, like, Halo 3 and what Master Chief was seeing there, and it just kind of brings it all together. It's something that was never really explained, but makes so much sense. It's just data kind of going away.
Yeah.
And they handled it way better than Halo 3.
Yeah, oh my god, it's so much. But there was, the Halsey cutscene, just that quick glimpse of Halsey giving Cortana. I was like, oh my god. I was dying. I'm like, I was sitting there crying. Oh my god. But I really liked that. I think it was important to establish Chief with an AI early on in the game, just because it is Halo, Chief's so quiet, he needs someone to be talking. And in Halo 5, that was Blue Team. And in Halo Infinite, he needed someone, right? I mean, Halo 3, he was surrounded by people, so he didn't need Cortana the whole time. But since Halo Infinite seems to be kind of a solo mission with Chief, he needed someone to obviously explain what was going on. He needs a buddy. He needs someone to talk because he won't do it.
I also think you, the player, need that because, you know, you're being led into this amazing world.
Need friends, Matt.
No, but like you need someone to guide you. This is what you do. This is how you take this. This is, you know what I mean? This is a target. Yeah. So I think it helps you and the player.
It's a nice way of giving juxtaposition. No, that's not the right word. Exposition. Exposition is what I want.
Yeah.
It just gives it a way to explain it more. Was there anything else, Krysta, or was that the main thing that really stood out to you?
Oh my god, I love that elite boss in the tower.
I hated him.
Chuck Locke.
It was just his mannerisms and the way, like that cutscene with him when he was talking to Chief and he's like casually swinging. He like swings in front of him, and I don't know, it just felt so right for an elite to be acting like that and for his body language to be like that. I felt like it was the elites that are described in the books and in the extended universe. I felt like we finally got something that was akin to that on screen, and I really, really appreciated it. I was like, oh my god, I love it. I like the Sangheili, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the Warlord in general is a really cool new design, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a mix mash of a general and a zealot, and it just looks awesome. One thing I'm surprised neither of you have mentioned, actually, is Escharum. And I love how in that kind of first mission, and you get him as a hologram, and he's kind of he doesn't care about this threat at first. He's like, whatever, we'll deal with it. And then he realizes that this is the Master Chief back from beyond the grave, and he's kind of like, oh yes, my great challenge has come. And I just like this like sense of arrogance that you get from him as a villain. I think it's really cool seeing this person, well, this animal, who is so confident that they've won, that he's just like smirking and jeering while he's talking to you. I thought that was incredibly well acted.
And this is, I think, the part where I think 343 nailed on the bad guys, because you as the player hate them. Like, they've done their job so well. Like, you hate the villains and you want to kill them. Is this mission where Escharum goes through the names of Chief and then tells him what the Banished call him?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want to spoil it or anything.
Like the Covenant called him Demon.
Humanity's savior.
Yeah. I think they called the Banished call him Prey.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah. See, like,
yeah, I was like, oh man, he's dropping the gauntlet.
Yeah, I'm like that. See, like that to me sets like the whole kind of sets the mood where like, okay, this is where you think you are in comparison, right?
As a little side note for our listeners, I wish you could have seen my face then when Matt said, "Is this the mission when?"
Yeah, I'm like, oh.
my eyes were just wide, my jaw
Tom's
was
hand
open.
slowly moves to the end call button.
Yeah, I've because I haven't finished the campaign, I've threatened them with physical violence if they spoil anything.
We are here under
very
duress,
scared.
to clarify. Anyone listening to this, we are not here by choice.
No, but like, if you don't want to get spoiled, hang off the internet. There are so many things in this game that you, as the player, should experience within the game. You know, it's something 100%. That on a personal Halo level, you have to experience. So, like, my brother hasn't played it at all, and he will be playing it later. But I haven't told him anything because I want him to walk into it on his own, you know, experience it on his own. I think that's how Halo Infinite should be played, because there are a lot of surprises and a lot of cool little things, you know.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I want to ask before we move on to our final topic, which will be exploration, is what did you both think of the Tremonius encounter?
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about that. I like it because they set him up in a previous cutscene with like the other, with like Jaga, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to fight that guy. Yeah. But they set him up with a couple others, and he's just the first one you happen to encounter. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good first boss to kind of teach you what a boss battle is going to be like. But I'm not sure if it was super memorable because I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember killing him and then being like, I think I had a skewer and I was just like, I just skewered him and I'm like, all right, that was a cutscene, and then I just kind of left. So maybe that's why. I'm playing on normal, by the way. Same. Just for my first go around, I wanted to play on normal and then hop into legendary next.
I think the best part about that encounter was after you kill him, Eshrum's like, yeah, he wasn't the best of us. There's more coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
He's trying to shrug it off, like,
whatever, it's fine. But you killed him. He didn't matter.
I feel like with Eshram, with every encounter, it was like and that's why the pawns go first.
Yeah.
Like he was just kind of like testing Chief.
Yeah. And maybe you will see that continue, right, Matt? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, moving on.
I don't know. I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny that anything happens.
Nothing else happens in the game, actually.
No, Halo Infinite actually ends after the tower, to clarify.
That's because you just wander around the open world.
You get lost.
Yeah.
Chief got lost.
The game.
That's what happens.
That is a perfect point to deviate the conversation. So, Krysta, why don't you lead us on this? What exploration bits have you done so far?
Oh man, I got stuck once. That was really fun. It was on one of those on one of those like divides between one side of the land and the other side of the land, and I was just like following the honeycombs, and then I got to a point where I'm like, I'm not sure I can get back up. I took a lot of doing, but I got back up, but I was like, I might be stuck, actually. It was like the first, like, maybe 10 minutes I was actually off exploring, and I immediately got myself stuck, so that was fun. But, after the tower, I've just been going through, and every time I see, like, a Spartan core, I'll go get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like how cosmetics are a thing that you can find in this game. I thought that was so cool that you can get multiplayer cosmetics by wandering around the open world.
Yeah.
I think because like in previous Halo games, there have been unlockable multiplayer cosmetics depending on what you do in the campaign. So I loved that has returned in this game in a little different of a way, but I think it works very well. Yeah. So basically my thing is like I'll like put a waypoint down and be like, I'm gonna go, capture this what are the points called that you can summon vehicles and stuff from?
The FOBs.
Fob. Yeah, I'll be like heading towards one of those, and then I'll be like, oh, that's a big mountain. I'm gonna climb up that mountain to see what's up there. That's just been my
I feel like we're getting insight into how your brain works right now.
Yeah, kind of. It's just, I find the next shiny thing and I just kind of go with it.
So you're a magpie?
A little bit. Just kind of going with the flow. Just kind of like, I'll stumble across a base and be like, you know what? I'm already here. Let's get this done. And then I wander off to the next thing. I'm like, oh, there are Marines in trouble. I'm here. Let's get that done. And that's just kind of how I've approached. That's how I've approached the open world. Of course, like I'll get everything I can in an area before kind of wandering off to the next area. But it's just I like the vibe of wandering around in the Halo ring. You come to like a cliff, the side of a cliff, and you're looking off of it, and all of a sudden the ambiance kicks in. It's like and you're like, wow. So I've been really enjoying that. I'm like, oh, this is so chill. I'm having so much fun on this Halo ring, man. So nice.
You really are blinded by His Majesty. It's like, oh.
I really am. Yeah. I'm just wandering around, just like, just my eyes wide and my mouth open, like, whoa. Yeah.
I plan on desecrating this ring with my unholy footsteps for a long time.
Yep.
So during your playthrough, have you had the opportunity to do Ransom Keep yet, Krysta? Is that one of the initial objectives that you've done?
Is that one of the ones with like the fuel cells?
It's the first banished outpost, with the fuel cells.
Oh yeah, and then like there's a bunch of like UNSC vehicles that are kind of being
Is this one
reused.
that you've done, Matt?
Yes, I have done that.
Okay,
one,
cool.
yeah.
I was like
It's,
very
like, right by
quickly
the
moving
base.
to talk over Krysta there, just in case.
It's okay. I think that's where you where you saw that in like I think one of the reveal trailers that they had that Chief was chucking a coil at the canister or the cylinder.
Yeah,
That's really fun. By the way, I like doing that.
Yeah, it is fun.
So, Matt, what do you think in general about the idea of these outposts being out there? Do you think it's a fun way of adding sort of, I guess, more dynamic narrative to the game, or is it more just sort of filler?
I think this goes back to how I was saying that it's like a mashup between Halo Wars and Halo, whereas you feel like, oh, this is a base that's set up. It's not necessarily set up for, just to control a choke point, but it's just a base to build stuff for the war effort. And I think being able to attack it, take it out, it really kind of makes you feel like you're not just saving the universe, but you're also kind of like on a more grounded level. You're taking the knees out of the banished each time you take a base, or each time you clear a fob, or you take one of these like refineries, I guess. And so I think with each kind of moment, you feel like, I'm dealing a blow to the banished. And I think that's kind of cool about it. And I think it also provides a larger story element that the banished are actually creating a war effort. Like it feels like a war effort. It feels like these guys are like, if you were going to war, they would have to make stuff in the field.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Have either of you dabbled with HVTs at this point?
What are those?
High value targets.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And then you get the like weird variant stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got the plasma pistol one and the skewer one. That's the ones I've gotten so far.
I've done a couple
they're
of them.
fucking so cool. I'm so glad they brought the variant kind of thing that they introduced in Halo 5 into Halo Infinite, where it's like you can even like go back to your base and like spawn one if you want to. I like it. I think it's a great idea. I think you find these high value targets, they're special, and then you get a special weapon.
Yeah. And one thing I will say on those as well is make sure you're reading your database, because there is some really cool lore behind each of the high value targets as well. It's cool seeing that they actually took the time to write out background bios for each of those characters.
Good for them.
So yeah, do take the time to read that. And also, there's plenty of audio logs throughout the open world, so make sure you're finding those. There is lots of story elements out there in the world which will give you more context to the broader things that are happening around this game's story. And there's some really cool moments packed into some of those audio logs that I think makes it worth discovering them. So my top tip for you would be look at those high points in mountains, places where you can see sandbags, that kind of stuff. Who knows what you might discover?
I think
I
those.
just hear the beeping. I hear the beeping in my dreams.
Oh, you
like,
can do
there's
that,
one around.
Krista.
I think those logs are a nice little treat. They're not just like when every time I listen to them, they don't seem pointless or like blah 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 whatever. But like either they're really emotional or they're really kind of like, ooh, that was nice to hear. Like, ooh, I wonder what else can come from it. You know what I mean? So I won't spoil any of the logs or stuff like that. But I like them, and I think they're kind of fun. So like, it's kind of like when I play it, I just keep walking. It's kind of like you're listening to a podcast as you're walking, as you're listening to this audio log.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I found the podcast Evolved audio log. That kind of blew my mind.
343.
It was really nice of them.
We should really get that going there,
So was there anything else that either of you wanted to add around exploration before we bring this to a close?
Grapple shot.
I'm just so happy. Oh god, I got the 40% cooldown, and now that's all I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I missed a shot, and then I'll just spam the button until it comes back up, and I'm just swinging around like crazy.
The cool thing about the grapple shot is obviously because Halo Infinite you're on a map that has lots of ledges that you can fall, right? Or you can fall to your death. I have, throughout my time playing the campaign, like accidentally walked off a ledge that was like, you'd fall to your death, but I was able to save myself with the grapple shot. So you just grapple to the wall and you kind of just like stair step and you can hop right back up. So you don't really ever have the fear of falling again, which I'm like, hello, because then you don't have those deaths, So
yeah, you just grapple back up to the top and get shot by a jackal sniper, right?
Exactly, those stupid jackal snipers. But I think the grapple shot is, and it's funny because when I first, especially with exploration, I'm like, why not just have a jetpack? And now I know why.
Yeah.
No,
it's because the grapple shot is superior in like every possible way. It is perfect for boarding vehicles. So if like, because Halo Infinite is so vast, you can just grapple a Banshee and take it, and it's easy. It's it's easy to just move across the field with it. You can use it the verticality is there, and so you never feel you never, like, you come to a mountain, you never feel like you have to go around it. You come to a big chasm, you feel like if I get close enough, I can make it across. You never have to feel like this, like, restricted. So I think the grapple shot allows for a lot of freedom within this vast thing, and I can't imagine playing Halo Infinite without it.
Yeah, I know.
I will say, be careful if you're traversing between islands with the grapple shot, because it can be a little bit temperamental, and sometimes it will let you cross, and other times you'll hit like a wall that's there to only let you cross with a vehicle.
Or you'll jump, grapple to the other side, and accidentally just pick up a weapon, and then you fall to your death. I've done that. I'm like, I'm out of the way. Oh, wait, I don't want that plasma rifle.
Also, is there no fall damage in this game? Because I have jumped off of a lot of things and have not been hurt at all.
I think there is, but it's activated really high up, because I'm sure I've died from falling once.
Well, you can. The nice thing is you can just kind of grapple shot the ground when you get close to it, and it negates all fall damage. I haven't had any fall damage because when I feel like I'm way too high up, I just like grapple shot the ground on my way down.
I think it's perfect for allowing you to still move freely throughout it. So I personally haven't experienced fall damage. I've seen it. You kick an elite out of his Banshee, and he goes, the demon absconded with my vehicle, and then he hits the ground and he dies. So like, there's fall damage for the enemies. So I don't know if I jumped out of my Banshee from that height, if I would die. I probably wouldn't, just because. But I don't think it's anything like, it's not like Halo 1 where you like fall 3 feet and you're dead.
So bad.
Yeah.
I hate fall damage in video games. I think it's
especially
really
for like a super soldier that could survive falling from space.
Yeah. Hello.
So I'm going to round this out by asking you to sum up your initial impressions on Halo Infinite in a sentence. So Krysta, you go first.
Oh my god.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Oh my god, I just can't. Matt, what about you?
As a whole, I'd say it's amazing. There are some things that I found underwhelming, but that would be a little spoilery for the next. But on a whole, I'd say it was one of the best experiences I've had within a campaign. It's been forever since I've played a Halo campaign for the first time, so it was really nice going through it. So I think well done, hats off, bravo. It's great.
Cool. And I'm gonna say better than sex. So on that note,
all right. Well, ladies, you're out. Halo Infinite's in.
Make sure to check out our other initial impressions episodes. We will have an episode with Blue Team, which is Frederick, Linda. No, it's not. It's Colin, Aaron, and Will.
That is Blue Team. You did say the correct names.
And also Grey Team, which is going to be Oran, Josh, and David. So thank you everybody for joining us. You can find every episode of all of our shows and our series on our website halopodcastevolve.com, and you can also search for their unique podcast feed. If you want to listen to everything all in one feed, follow Halo Podcast Evolved on your favourite podcast service, and do make sure to leave us a review. Another special shout out to all of our patrons for supporting this show and making all of this possible. You guys are awesome. Head to patreon.com/Halo Podcast Evolved to learn more. And finally, if you want to leave us a voicemail about this episode, a previous episode, or about anything Halo related, you can give us a call at 205 Evolved. That's 205-386-5833. And with that, I've been your host Tom, and until next time, evolve.
Evolve.